Hey guys, Isabel here. Welcome back to Reeled In. Today, again, is another Dyad Discuss. With me, I have my friend Connor. And today we'll be talking about the first three episodes, so the first half of the new Star Wars series, Kenobi. So, what I was kind of nervous for, I was nervous that the vibe from the trailer wouldn't be the vibe of the show. But so far, I am actually really enjoying the show. It's giving a lot of prequel feels and a lot of painful ones, but also a lot of fun ones. And I'm here for both the painful and the fun ones. What I also like a lot is all the characters, I think, are well thought out, and the actors and actresses have been doing a really good job, I feel personally.
I agree. So something to just get right out the gate. We were talking about this before we started. Obviously, this isn't my channel, but I just wanted to be the one to say it. Obviously her channel is a safe space and you can voice your opinions. But given recent controversies, this is not a place to be racist and abusive and just outright just mean without reason. So with that being said, we do stand with Moses Ingram. It's unfortunate with the hate that she had been getting, but I think those of us who have valid criticisms of the character, not the Emmy nominated actress,
Exactly.
judging her performance, not so much her character. I think it's important to stand with her as an actress and as a person, as a woman of color,
I
etc.
agree.
Don't be a jerk.
Luckily, not too many of those on my channel. So, yeah, this is a safe space. So you can have your criticisms as long as they're constructive and don't hurt others. But speaking of Moses and her character Riva, honestly, I thought I was going to be all for Kenobi in this series, but she's my favorite character.
I
And
agree.
and it's just, going back to Moses, I think she does such a good job because to me personally, Riva is what I think a dark side user should be. You can see all of her anger and her emotions, and a lot of it isn't over the top either. It's just like she'll breathe a certain way, or she'll hold her body position a certain way, or she'll have very minute facial expressions. And I'm like, she is so good. And over the course of Star Wars, we've had so many, Sith and dark side characters, but until I've seen Riva, I feel like they haven't exactly correctly shown the experience of what it is to like immerse yourself in the dark side, or have the dark side kind of be forced upon you, since Riva was most likely tortured into joining the dark side.
I think with the exception of someone like Palpatine or Vader, they are different extremes to dark side users. Palpatine is like that pure evil, whereas Vader is that tortured, conflicted soul. But I agree that Riva doesn't mess around, and I think Riva is a perfect example, like you said, of a dark side user, because she acts on emotion, she acts on ambition, and even if things seem like a split second sort of decision, like she calculates them at least very briefly.
Right.
So the whole thing with the Grand Inquisitor, like you could tell she's wanted to do that for a while. But another thing, going back to criticisms, one like more valid criticism that I've seen from people, or more constructive, I should say, is that they don't like how her character is so aggressive and so ambitious. But not only is that dark side kind of in its like essence, I feel a lot of these people, if they had seen Rebels, or if they had read the Vader comics, if they had played Fallen Order, they're forgetting, or if they haven't seen any of those, that is how the Inquisitors are. They're very competitive with each other, because they're all they can't achieve the rank of Sith because of the rule of two. So the
Yeah.
closest thing that they can get is the rank of Great Inquisitor in the favor of Vader and the favor of the Emperor. Like Trilla says it straight up in towards the tail end of Fallen Order.
Mm-hmm.
the second sister.
It also says a lot because I think, if I'm remembering correctly from like the comic, Vader doesn't like the Inquisitors either.
Mm-mm.
So, so I think they kind of can tell as well. So, in order to get the highest rank, you have to also promote yourself to someone who doesn't like you.
I don't remember the quote exactly. She said something, the Grand Inquisitor, and he says he is of no concern to me. To your point, yeah, they're expendable. So they're just kind of tools, which is why they also never get replaced. So there's never a repeat of the second sister or a repeat of the Grand Inquisitor as far as we know.
Yeah, another thing that like we've been talking about like Riva a lot, but I really like her character. And one thing I do love about her, and I've loved this about like all characters in any fandom that I watch, is the characters that are willing to do what it takes, no matter how bad or like morally gray it seems to be. And Riva is definitely one of those characters. Like she will do the hard things, and I'm here for her. And I know she's probably going to be like a tragic character, like she may not make it out of Kenobi. But honestly, I'm going to be here for her. I'm going to be here for her on her journey throughout Kenobi.
So when we went to, like, I recognized Alderaan almost immediately, and I went, okay, I think I know what's going on here. We're going to see the Organas. We're going to see all the Organas, and I'm really excited because I love Bail and Little Leia.
Little Leia. And can I say the characterization of Little Leia is spot on from the original Leia, Carrie Fisher.
Oh my goodness.
I love her. And for a 10-year-old to have wisdom beyond her years, like, I'm so proud of her. And
that's Leia.
It's Leia. And I am very excited to see more of Leia and Kenobi. I like their pairing a lot. And then because we also get a lot of mentions of Padme, which really breaks my heart every time it happens. Yeah. I feel bad kind of saying that I'm kind of glad the story isn't really focused on like young Luke and Kenobi's interaction. I'm glad they kind of switched it with Leia.
Well, because in Legends, there's not a whole lot of that either. But I was like, what's he gonna do? Because we saw in the Kenobi comics that, he fights off Tuskens, he encounters Chrysanthemum, but like he's not doing much. So I was like, what are we gonna have 6 episodes of him hiding and trying to talk to Qui-Gon?
I am very excited for him to try and reach, even if it's just like the voice of Qui-Gon, because
it's got to happen at some point, even if it's the last episode, because as we know, he is able to become a Force ghost and transcend beyond his corporeal form in the cosmic force.
Yeah. Plus it'll show like, because obviously right now Obi-Wan is not linked with the Force. He's very, he's kind of distanced himself from the Force. So it'll show him like rekindling, the Force within him. Because I feel like people, myself included, need to remember that the Kenobi we see right now is a very he's very different. He's lost everything, his whole family, everything he's believed in, which is one thing I did want to see originally before the movie came out. Because I know your views of Kenobi have kind of changed over the years, because he was very set on the Jedi Order and their belief system.
Very by the book.
Yeah, it's very by the book. He always kind of has been. And because I read the Master and Apprentice book, which is about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. So even back then, he still was like that. So to see him have his beliefs shattered, I'm excited to see the belief systems that he, builds back up, whatever they may be. But I keep having reminding myself that he has not touched the Force in 10 years, probably has not touched his lightsaber in 10 years. So he's very rusty. He's like a man who's been kicked when he's down, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm excited to see his character arc,
And who better to put him back in his place than Leia
his old
Organa.
master. Oh, Leia Organa.
I was gonna say Leia Organa. And that was something I think starting the 3rd episode. So it's like, why would he expect to be able to communicate Qui-Gon if he's closed himself off from the Force? Because you have to be connected to the Force in order to reach out beyond, in the cosmic plane, whatever, however you want to say it. So I don't know why he expected before that to be able to communicate with him,
Yeah.
unless it wasn't intentional, because I know you can unintentionally close yourself off from the force.
Well, I think he probably did do it unintentionally because one, the man has PTSD and he's got like survivor's guilt. So I think that whole thing is he's kind of, I think he's afraid. So like if he opens himself up to the force, he'll, feel those things he doesn't really want to feel or think about. Which is what I think episode 3 kind of talked about without actually talking about it, because we got a cool name drop, Quinlan Voss, as well as also that thing here, the saying he wrote on the wall about you can only see when your eyes are closed, essentially. Spoilers, when Obi-Wan and Vader are they finally, meet. Obi-Wan turns on his lightsaber not only to defend himself but to see better in the dark, but because his saber is so bright, he's actually blinded by it. So I think Obi-Wan needs to learn to embrace that side of him. And because I think Qui-Gon is more like there's not a light and a dark, you kind of have to stay in the middle. So I think Obi-Wan needs to learn to, embrace that darkness that he can feel, but learn to like stay in the middle of it and not be swayed to either side. Also, maybe Quinlan Voss is the one who rescued Grogu. We don't know.
I didn't think about that because I didn't know where Quinlan was. I
didn't know where he was either. I think he's just all over.
But yeah, now that we know that Quinlan is out there doing stuff, that's a good point.
Yeah, and he's also, he's rescuing younglings essentially.
Yeah,
we did find that out in this episode.
Yeah,
we got a lot of Vader, a lot more than I ever thought we would get. Vader without, I'm living for the Vader without his machinery on. And just to reinforce the torturedness, so the scene in the beginning where he's coming out of the bath and he's getting all assembled, so the tubes that are taken out of his back, those are like his oxygen tubes. That means that man has to hold his breath. He can't breathe until the face mask goes on, and that's the very last thing that goes on his body. You just gotta feel bad for him. I mean, you do and you don't, but like you just gotta feel bad for him.
I feel bad for Anakin Skywalker. I'll put it that way. I don't necessarily feel bad for Darth Vader, although they're the same person, but they're not. Like they're the same person, but Vader does not see Anakin Skywalker as a part of him. But yeah, this series, I'm surprised by like all the Legends parallels that I'm seeing, because they're kind of striking. A book by Hayden Blackman, who wrote The Force Unleashed, and that there was this scene where he's in the bath and he's going in. Remember correctly, I think there was like a droid like asking, "What are your orders?" And he said something along the lines of, "Keep me sane." So he's in constant pain. And we know from the newer book, or the newer comics, the older books, that the Emperor did that to him on purpose. So he's constantly in pain.
Right.
So I think the only time where he's like sort of able to have a little bit of peace is when he's in that tank.
Yeah. And we kind of learned in Boba Fett that tank, the back to tanks, kind of put you in a little bit like a trance.
It's like aloe vera. It's the magic.
It's like aloe vera. But I also kind of feel like maybe he's not physically in pain when he gets in the back to tank, but because the tank can kind of make you, relive your memories, I feel like he's still in mental pain whenever he goes into the back to tank. Speaking of connections, which I'm sure you also notice, is that Anakin / Darth Vader and Obi-Wan have a very interesting connection through the Force, especially now that Obi-Wan has started to open himself back up to the Force. Because based off of like camera edits and directing, because when I'm pretty sure when Obi-Wan whispers Anakin, that's what makes Anakin like wake up in the back of the tank. And then I think it's in the beginning of episode 3, Obi-Wan's still trying to contact Qui-Gon and he's reliving memories, but then there's a one memory of Anakin when he's younger and he's in the starfighter and he's like, shooting all the droids. Obi-Wan wasn't there for that, so he shouldn't have that memory. So I think he's also channeling Anakin's older memories as well. Or it's like we're seeing Obi-Wan and Anakin's memories together because the Force is like linking them in a way.
That's a lot deeper than I thought, because I thought that was just dramatic irony.
I'm sure that was that as well, but
But you can make that connection
you can, yeah, I feel like you
if you
could
want
make
to.
that connection.
That's an interesting thought, actually. I didn't think about that. But yeah, I do like that, actually, because we've seen it a couple times. Because you see it with father and son and master and apprentice, brother and sister. Like the number of times that I could count when Star Wars has shown that kind of connection. You know, I need to be Grievous. I need to have four hands for it. So I do like that little connection.
So like I said, it's definitely Obi-Wan's at a low point right now. Physically, you can see the difference because Obi-Wan has to use two hands when holding the lightsaber, while Anakin the whole time only uses one. So Vader, obviously a lot stronger at this point. It was not what I was expecting the initial meet up between Vader and Obi-Wan to be. I have to say, I didn't ever expect Obi-Wan to run away, although it does make sense because he doesn't want to deal with anything right now. There are parts I liked about it, but parts I didn't. In a way, it kind of felt a little bit lackluster, but I do understand why it kind of was lackluster. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I kind of agree. Like, something about it, like I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. There's something about it that is sitting weird with me. My brain is telling me that it's the way that it was shot and edited, which I think is a big part of it. Yeah, there's just something about it is a little strange to me, and I can't figure out if it has any effect on their meeting in A New Hope.
Well, I think in the
Um,
last episode, we're going to get another meetup and probably a bigger and better lightsaber battle between the two characters. I'm going to reserve judgment on that statement you made until after the whole series, season
I
one at
think
least.
there are a lot of things that are being answered. There's not too many standing questions, partially because we know what happens. So with Obi-Wan and Leia, the stakes aren't as high as they would be otherwise.
Right.
Unless you hadn't seen the originals or you don't know what happens in the originals.
Mhm.
There's high stakes for Riva. The Grand Inquisitor, it's sort of up in the air, but I don't think that he's dead.
I think
Um,
his species has two stomachs.
really.
So
Look
the
at you
f-
being the new Star Wars expert. I
so
didn't know that either
the
Palins had two stomachs.
I don't quote me on that though, because that could not be true. But I think I did read somewhere that they do have two stomachs. So he got stabbed in the stomach area. So maybe
I
one
mean,
will take over.
people have been stabbed before and they survive. So,
Mhm.
because he comes back in season 2. Yeah, we find out that he was a temple guard.
So when you're mentioning about Leia and how the stakes for her aren't very high, because obviously we know her storyline in the originals. But I was saying in one of my reactions, I'm like, I know this is not the last time that Leia gets kidnapped, and I feel like in every other episode of Kenobi, Leia is just gonna keep getting taken, and it's kind of fun to see. It's not fun, but it's kind of fun to see like how she and or Ben Kenobi are gonna get her out of this. Because right now, left off at a cliffhanger, Riva has Leia. And like how you said earlier, how Leia, I think, is going to help with Kenobi. I also wonder if Leia might help with Riva, because we obviously saw, I think, a smidge, barely less than a smidge of like conflict when Riva is in the path and she sees the Jedi symbol.
Oh, I
She
think it's
gets
more than a smidge. She completely stops and looks at it, looks at the ground, looks like she's about to start crying
mhm.
when she
Which
sees
is,
the symbol of the Jedi.
yeah,
So, I think this, again, she's a perfect example of an Inquisitor, because
right.
most of the Inquisitors were former Jedi who
Mhm.
turned. These Inquisitors, like, you have to have that kind of frustration with the Order and the
Mhm.
way that that the state of things are, in order to completely turn on your kind.
Yeah, you need that sense of betrayal.
Yeah, so I definitely think someone like Obi-Wan, who was kind of a Jedi celebrity in a way, he wasn't there.
I'm pretty sure we see her at the very beginning of episode 1. Like, I'm pretty sure she's one of those 4 Padawan who are fleeing.
Yeah, because
the
why would they
temple.
give that one Padawan
Like a close up? There's like 3
it was like a
close-ups.
medium shot, but she's the only one that says anything.
Yeah, which would also, I think, make a lot more sense for her character, especially her being as an inquisitor, because then you have her starting off with being afraid. So you have fear. She's living on the streets. She doesn't have a home. And then, obviously, they're trying to find all these force sensitive children and people. So they find her and they torture her. So she was already afraid before this happened. And then, when she's being tortured, the sense of betrayal happens. Could have already been even before that. And it just keeps building and building.
I don't think we have all the context, but at least trying to speculate from what we have. The Grand Inquisitor said, "You came to us from the gutters." Mm-hmm. So yeah, being out on her own for some time, and then seeing as how the Jedi all perished, but the ones who are still alive aren't doing anything, aren't standing up, it would make sense. Also, not me absolutely just wanting to bawl my eyes out with that little discussion with Leia and Obi-Wan.
Oh my God.
Parentage.
Oh my God.
Not Obi-Wan wanting to be Leia's father.
Literally, when he's like, "I wish I could say I was," I'm like, why?
That was such an amazing scene. And
it was.
Again, I know like she's a child actress, but like hats off to her. She did an amazing job. She's doing great. She looks like her. I couldn't find any like photos of Carrie Fisher at that age, but like I could definitely see her looking something like that, and then growing up to look like Carrie Fisher.
I know. Whoever did the casting, like, I think did a really good job.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I heard people think she's annoying. First of all, she's 10. You have to, I feel like with child characters, not only in Star Wars, but also in like Marvel and stuff like that, people need to remember these are children. They should be acting like children. But I didn't find her annoying. I found her to be Leia Organa, Princess Leia Organa. That's how she would be.
Yeah.
I think she's doing a really good job. She's a princess, she's a little spoiled,
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, in the originals too, you see a lot of that interaction with her and Han, with him being, "Oh, my bad, princess," throwing it in her face, and say confidently, at least 85% of the time, she's in her right. Like you said, you have this layer of her coming from essentially royalty and privilege, but also having this same kind of personality, that Anakin and Padme both have, that makes her this kind of rough and tough fighter. So
right. One thing I don't know if it's like actually a thing or not. Every time Obi-Wan is like, "You remind me of your mother," essentially, like I'll say something along those lines. That is true, but I also think there's a lot of Anakin in Leia.
I agree.
But Obi-Wan cannot bring himself to say that because he just can't say it. And so he's always like, "Oh, your mother." But in his head, it's also painful for him, even more painful for him, because like this is like mini Anakin too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Because in that conversation, where she's sitting there and she has like this emotional moment kind of with herself, being, "I always wondered what they look like. I always wondered what he looked like." Obi-Wan very quickly turns the conversation from, "I wish I knew what my father looked like. Are you my father?" "No. I wish I could say I was. But your mother." And it's like,
yeah, he just can't focus on it for too long, or else he's gonna spiral. I wonder if he has to spiral though in order to finally see Qui-Gon. And
possibly.
I'm kind of here for it if he does.
Going back to your point about his beliefs, I'm wondering if his arc doesn't have a similar kind of parallel where he'll have that connection with Qui-Gon rather than with Anakin. Because I think in order for him to be able to make that connection, he's going to have to accept that Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at this point he doesn't quite believe it.
Can we talk about all this? It's not really, we don't have to talk about it, but just, I'm going to state it.
You can talk about whatever you want. This is your channel.
I know. Just Darth Vader also burning Obi-Wan. You now get to see, because usually Darth Vader is like, every order he does is from like the Emperor, but this is like for Darth Vader himself to like burn Obi-Wan and get a little revenge in there.
So 2 things. One, a lot of people have already pointed this out, but that is something that he has literally dreamed of for a long time. It was shown in the comics that he literally had a vision where he did that, and that the roles were reversed, and that Obi-Wan was the one who was left to burn on Mustafar, except he actually died.
Yeah.
In regards to the Emperor's orders, I don't think the Emperor knows about this. So I don't think he told the Emperor about any of what is going on and what is going to happen, which is pretty interesting.
I think it goes to show that Anakin has always been a very emotional person with Padme, obviously with Obi-Wan now, it's like you can see that emotion, and because it's really interesting to see all like the camera tricks they do, because you can't see his face when he's Darth Vader, so you have to rely on body motion and also little other things. So at the end, when Obi-Wan is able to get away with the help of the droid and with Tala, to like show his fury and his anger, you have the fire reflecting in his eyes, and so his eyes are like lit with fury, essentially. There's fire in his eyes, essentially.
I have to go back and see if you can actually see his eyes too, because it's those red lenses, the deep red. And if you remember in the last frame, one of the last frames of the Clone Wars finale, you see him looking up at Morai, or what we suspect is Morai, and you can just barely see
his eyes,
the blue in his eyes through the lenses.
Oh yeah, but I guess it's just interesting to see like what Obi-Wan goes through between Revenge of the Sith and then when we see old Ben in A New Hope, because I never thought he would get burned by Darth Vader.
Yeah, me neither.
So, and I have a feeling this is not the last thing that's going to happen to him, and so I am therefore excited to see it.
Can we talk very briefly about the Grand Inquisitor?
Grand Quizzy? Sure.
Grand Quizzy. First of all, he looks great.
With the Sith eyes.
So that was all it was for me. It wasn't necessarily the shape of his head. It was the eyes for me. But there was a reason for it, which is why I'm glad I wasn't, too loud about how I thought he looks kind of goofy. Because I know a lot of people some people really clowned on him. I'm like, all right, like chill out. Like maybe there's a reason for it, because there is, and I think that's exactly what it is the Sith eyes, or the yellow eyes, kind of only come when you give yourself completely to the dark side.
Right.
So he's still kind of on the fence of like getting that control. But I think because he was a Temple Guard, he's the first that Anakin and the 501st would have encountered. And so arguably he's probably the first Inquisitor, which is why he's given the title of Grand Inquisitor, as far as I know, or can remember. But after probably dying and coming back, he's gonna be ready to completely give in. So I just like how there was a reason for it, but that we do get to see him with those menacing yellow eyes that we see in Rebels, because like I said, for me, that was the make or break. So the fact that we see them at all makes me very happy.
I do like how it's moving at a good pace, so I think we're going to get a lot in the next 3 episodes, which I'm also excited for. I'm excited to see Leia and Reva specifically in next episode. I'm excited to see what happens with that, and if Leia may or may not bring something out of Reva, a good something maybe, or maybe even a worse something. I don't know.
Because we also do get some hints, here and there that her Force connection, and I think because of her age, same as Luke, he's starting to show.
Mhm.
So was Leia, but Leia was never trained.
Right. What I think Leia's Force connection is like not read minds essentially, but like with her cousin.
She can sense what people are feeling. So she
Yeah.
could, and I think because she's really smart, she can infer that someone like Obi-Wan is hiding something.
Yeah. And like, because also that whole thing with her cousin, it's like you see her kind of like squint at him and then she just killed him.
I love it. I was on the floor.
I had to clap. I was like, good job. Yeah, I didn't have too much to say about episode 1. It's kind of just like, the setup for everything. Also, what I thought though was originally a crate dragon. It's not a crate dragon. It looks like a whale species, which also bringing back to Boba Fett, we learned that Tatooine used to be underwater.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So prehistoric whale that they're still getting meat out of somehow. Kind of cool lore, I guess, for Tatooine.
That I didn't know.
If that's true. Also don't know if it is true, but episode 2 and episode 3, I think, can pretty go together because it's still, like you said, this is like a 5-hour movie, essentially, when the whole series is over.
Yeah, a typical opener,
Mhm.
It's a little slow, but it like sets everything up and everyone and everything up.
Mhm.
And then you have the rest of the conflict.
I think that's all I had to talk about. Those are all the thoughts in my head. Do you have any more?
I think, and I don't know what to expect because we've only been shown, I think, everything in the trailer. There's one scene at the Inquisitor's castle where Reva is marching out with a battalion of stormtroopers and some purge troopers. Other than that, I think we've seen everything.
Right.
Or we haven't. Everything in the trailer we've already seen.
Good. I want to be surprised. Also, quick, speaking of Reva, you just reminded me. I think she will get what she wants, or at least a smidge of it, but with past camera cuts, especially when she's in the Inquisitor
Castle.
That's a castle.
Fortress Inquisitorius, if you want to be.
Okay, the fortress, because it doesn't look like a castle to me, but the fortress. Every time when she walked in, so the Grand Inquisitor chair, it has those forked things, which so does the fortress and so does the ships. But she's walking.
Vader's castle.
Yeah, she's walking in, and her entire figure is in between the forks. So like she's, and then when she walks back out, she's also in the middle of those two forks. So
noticed that.
So
I've only seen it once, but I didn't notice it.
I've seen it, I've probably because I've seen it twice. But so I think she's gonna get somewhere. Don't know what that where will be, but
it'll be interesting to see if she gets the title of Grand Inquisitor and then
briefly, and then
the other Grand Inquisitor shows up,
comes back.
So one thing I do want an Inquisitor fight, whether she turns or not. Mm-hmm. I do want an actual Inquisitor fight. That would be really cool. And I do want her to have some sort of confrontation, like face to face with Obi-Wan, because she was so close.
I know. She
was so close. So she was right, by the way. When Grand Inquisitor came in, he just wanted the credit for that whole. He thought you were going to take all the credit. Like, she wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing about that was incorrect.
Mm-hmm. So now those are all my thoughts. I forgot, and then you reminded me when you're talking about the fortress. So now those are all of my thoughts. Cool. All right, guys, that has been our Dyad discussion on episodes 1 through 3, mainly episode 3 of the new series Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, whatever you call it. Both are probably honestly correct. Connor, thank you so much for joining me. Always fun to talk to you about Star Wars. You are my Star Wars compendium. And guys, be sure to leave a like on the video. Comment what are your theories for the future Kenobi TV show, and what has so far been your favorite episode in the series. And be sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for future Kenobi reactions as well as Kenobi discussions. But guys, Thank you so much for joining me. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.